All right, folks, settle in because this one's going to be a bit of a ride. Emotions are raw, heads are spinning, and truth be told, I'm just as rattled as the rest of you. That game on Saturday, a total gut punch. And maybe we're not quite used to the feeling anymore. Celtic losing a final? That used to be a thing of the past. 13 years unbeaten in finals. 13! And then bang, Aberdeen of all teams breaks the streak. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, let's talk about the one bit of good. News that's keeping some of us from launching the telly out the window. It's official now. Celtic will be seeded for the UEFA Champions League playoff round. And no, it's not just a meaningless technicality. It matters a lot. See, with Dinamo Zagreb failing to win the Croatian league, they've dropped out of the Champions path. That shuffled things just enough to give us the seeded spot. And what that means is simple. We avoid a whole host of nightmares in the playoff. No Bodo Glimt, no Ferencvaros, no Red Star Belgrade, no Copenhagen. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't guarantee qualification. Far from it. But it does mean we're not walking blindfolded into a buzzsaw. That's something. Now, there's a bit of confusion out there. A lot of lists floating about titled 5 teams Celtic could face and all that jazz. But the truth is we don't actually know yet. There are still ties to be played in the earlier rounds. Teams expected to go through could slip up. Shocks happen. So what we're working with right now is speculation at best. But if we assume the teams with the higher coefficient win their ties, you're looking at potential matchups against the likes of Basel or Sturm Graz, Swiss and Austrian champions respectively. Other names being thrown around include Maccabi Tel Aviv, Slovan Bratislava, Ludogorets, Malmo, the usual crowd of awkward away trips and hostile environments. Of all those, maybe Basel's the trickiest. They've just won the Swiss league and they've got players with real pedigree. Shaqiri, for example, lifting yet another trophy. And then there's Albion Ajeti still floating about there, trying to remind folk he used to wear the hoops. But even then, you'd still rather play Basel than some of the unseeded teams we could have drawn if Zagreb hadn't slipped. Being seeded means we avoid that nightmare scenario. We saw what Bodo did to us not so long ago. Nobody wants a repeat of that. And Red Star in Belgrade, no thanks. So yes, being seeded matters massively. One thing folk always ask is, does being seeded mean you get the second leg at home? And the answer is no. It doesn't. UEFA basically tosses the seeded and unseeded balls into the pot, and whoever's name comes out first plays the first leg at home. So it's a coin toss. 50-50. Would we prefer the second leg at Celtic Park? Probably. There's a sense of control having the second game at home, especially if you get a decent result away. But I've also seen us completely crumble at home in second legs and grind out results away from home, so maybe it's all in our heads. Now, let's not pretend the Champions League stuff fixes the bad taste Saturday left in our mouths. That final against Aberdeen was grim, and not because they played some world-beating stuff. Let's be honest, they sat deep, they frustrated us, they waited for their moment and pounced when we handed them a goal on a silver platter. It's the oldest tactic in the book, and it worked. But it's not like we weren't warned. The signs were there for weeks. The second half of the season felt off. A wee bit flat. We were doing just enough. The league was wrapped up in December, and from there it just felt like we were going through the motions. Trophy day even felt subdued, and that's supposed to be a party. The atmosphere at Hampton? Quiet, muted, and when we scored, barely a cheer. It was an own goal, but it still felt like nobody really believed in what we were watching. And look, let's not ignore the elephant in the room either. Brendan Rodgers, did he get his subs wrong? Maybe. Taking off key players early when the game was still hanging in the balance was a gamble, and it didn't pay off. We ended up in extra time with a cobbled together side that didn't scream cup winners. Yang, Kenny, McCowan, Greg Taylor playing midfield. It was makeshift. At best, not exactly the cavalry you'd want charging in to rescue a final. I'm not having a go at the lads, but the drop in quality from starters to subs is just too stark. And that's a recruitment issue. We've been light all season. We knew it. We felt it every time someone picked up a knock. No Kyogo? Suddenly, we're scraping for options. No Hatade? Midfield looks lost. James Forrest? Should have started, in my opinion. At least he brings a bit of composure and experience. But once again, we're relying on the same names to pull rabbits out the hat. And when they don't, we're left looking for scapegoats. Speaking of which, Kasper Schmeichel, a big call was made to bring him back into the fold after injury. And it backfired spectacularly. That goal, absolute howler. Would Sinisalo have made the same mistake? Who knows? But if your keeper isn't 100%, don't force it, especially not in a final. Schmeichel is still quality, but match sharpness matters, and maybe we pushed it too soon. And what about our man on the right wing, Nicholas Kuhn? 3 goals in his last 14 games since Munich. He's become painfully predictable. Everyone. And that dog knows he's cutting inside on his left. No variation, no edge. First half of the season, he was electric, direct, dangerous. Now, shadow of that player. I get that he's more suited to European football. He thrives when there's space, but you still need to impact domestic games, especially in a cup final. And if we can't find a way to unlock him next season, maybe it's time to cash in. I'm bringing someone who can give us something different on that right-hand side. Harsh? Maybe, but that's football. The truth is, this season was still a success on paper. 2 trophies, the league in the bag, and some decent performances along the way. But there's this nagging feeling that we left something on the table, that we could have done more. That we should have done more. Losing the treble hurts, not just because of the history, but because it felt gettable. We were in control for most of that final. Until we weren't. And that's what stings the most. Now we stare down the barrel of a long, painful summer with no Celtic games to distract us. Just endless speculation, transfer rumors, and that lingering frustration. But maybe that's what we need. A break. Time to reset. For the players, the staff, the fans, everyone. This team's been on a roller coaster, especially the first half of the season when we were playing every 3 days, balancing Europe, the league, and the cups. Maybe it finally caught up with us. And no winter break didn't help. The legs were heavy, the spark was gone, and the final 2 performances of the season showed it. So what happens now? Well, we rebuild, we regroup, and hopefully we come back with fire. Because if there's one thing a defeat like that does, it sparks something. At least it should. We need players with hunger, with bite. We need to strengthen in key areas. Wingers, a striker, more depth in midfield. And we need to make sure this group doesn't go stale. Callum McGregor will come back ready to run through walls. That's a given. But what about the rest? What about Kuhn? What about Adam Maeda, Dyson Maeda? He's a machine. But even he looks spent near the end. Hopefully he gets some proper time with his family, recharges, and returns flying. The big thing for next season. Mentality. We need that swagger back, that sense of purpose. Because if we start the next campaign the way we started the last one, fast, intense, ruthless, then this defeat might end up being the wake-up call we needed. It might just be the spark that stops us slipping into complacency. We've seen what this team's capable of. The highs have been really high, but the lows? Well, Saturday showed us how far we can fall if we're not switched on. And to be honest, I'm not panicking, not yet. Rodgers is still the right man, and the core of this squad is good enough to win titles. But if we want to take that next step, especially in Europe, we can't afford to stand still. Here, the rest of Scotland will smell blood. Rangers will be licking their lips. Aberdeen now believe. Hearts, Hibs, they'll be watching. So we've got to raise the bar again, raise the standards, and show them that this was a blip, not a blueprint. That's where we're at, folks. A bit bruised, a bit battered, but not broken. Just tired. Tired of the same issues cropping up. Tired of what ifs. Tired of feeling like we could have done more. But we'll rest, we'll recover, and we'll go again. And maybe, just maybe, this little stumble will make the next climb even sweeter. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a growing buzz swirling around the Scottish Premiership this week, with whispers suggesting that Celtic might be on the verge of landing one of football's brightest young talents. Word on the street is that Real Madrid's promising youngster Endrick could be heading to Glasgow on a season-long loan deal. And if true, it would be a massive coup for the boys. Endrick, still just a teenager, has been turning heads at the Santiago Bernabeu with his explosive pace, dazzling, dribbling an eye for goal. Having already impressed in Real Madrid's youth setups and training with the first team, the Brazilian forward is widely regarded as one of the most exciting prospects in world football. Yet given the star-studded nature of Madrid's attacking lineup, it's perhaps no surprise that the club are exploring ways to ensure the youngster gains regular first-team experience. Celtic, known for their ambition and ability to develop young talent, have emerged as a potential landing spot. The speculation suggests a loan deal that would see Endrick spend the upcoming season at Parkhead, offering the boys a lethal edge up front while allowing the player to hone his craft in a competitive environment. The Scottish Premiership might not have the global spotlight of La Liga, but for a young striker craving game time and physical challenges, it could be the perfect stage to grow. Fans in Glasgow are reportedly buzzing at the possibility, with many dreaming of Endrick lining up alongside the likes of Kyogo Furuhashi and Jota, adding even more firepower to Celtic's attack. The boys' history of nurturing young stars and propelling them to greatness fits the narrative perfectly, and this potential loan could be another stepping stone in Endrick's path to stardom. Of course, nothing has been confirmed just yet. Talks are said to be in the early stages, with Real Madrid keen to ensure their prized asset gets the best possible development opportunities. For Celtic, securing a player of Endrick's caliber, even temporarily, would send a strong message to rivals both at home and abroad. It's a gamble, but one that could pay off handsomely if the Brazilian prodigy flourishes under the intense Scottish spotlight. As the transfer window approaches its busy period, keep your ears to the ground. This story might just unfold into one of the most intriguing moves of the season. Will Endrick swap the bright lights of Madrid for the passionate support of the Celtic Park faithful? For now, it remains a tantalizing possibility, one that's sparking excitement from Spain to Scotland and beyond. Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.